The garage was quiet that evening, filled only with the faint scent of motor oil and cedar from the old shelves. Retired Police Chief Raymond Doyle slid a box forward, expecting to find Christmas ornaments. Instead, he pulled out a battered evidence box, one that should have been locked in the precinct vault decades ago. His hands trembled as he wiped away the dust. The yellowing label read, Case 47B, Missing Persons, 1998. But Raymond knew that case had been officially closed. The problem was, he was the one who had signed it shut, and he had no memory of ever bringing this box home. Something wasn't right. Raymond Doyle had given 35 years of his life to law enforcement. In the small town of Fairview, people respected him, not for being perfect, but for being steady. He was the officer who stayed late, who comforted families, who walked children across Main Street during parades. Fairview itself was postcard America. White church steeple, diners with neon signs, a single train line cutting across the edge of town. Summers smelled of cut grass and gasoline, winters of wood smoke and iron frost. It was the kind of place where everyone believed they knew everyone else's secrets. And yet, as Raymond stared at the evidence box under the flickering garage light, he realized there were secrets even he had never uncovered, or perhaps had chosen to forget. Inside the box, files lay scattered, grainy Polaroids, handwritten witness statements, and a child's pink hair clip taped inside a plastic sleeve. Raymond's chest tightened. He remembered the case instantly. Emily Rourke, age 12. Disappeared walking home from school in 1998. It was the case that haunted Fairview, the one that tore apart a family and fractured the town's trust in the police. But the official record said otherwise. The report concluded Emily had run away, most likely hitchhiking out of state. No body, no suspect, no arrest. Raymond himself had signed the closure. So why was the evidence here, in his garage, hidden behind old furniture? Raymond didn't tell his wife right away. Instead, he sat at the kitchen table late that night, nursing a glass of bourbon, rereading each file. One detail stood out: a witness statement from Emily's best friend, scrawled in shaky pen. She said she was scared of a man in uniform. The words made him flinch. The next morning, Raymond drove back to the old precinct, now run by Chief Dana Moore, a woman 20 years younger who still treated Raymond with deep respect. He casually asked about archived evidence from the late 90s. Dana checked the records, frowning. "Chief, everything's accounted for. Case 47B? That's just school runaway paperwork. Nothing major." Raymond kept his face calm, but his stomach turned. The box in his garage shouldn't exist. 2 nights later, unable to resist, he spread the photos across his desk. One picture showed a patch of woods behind Fairview Middle School. In the corner, almost hidden by shadows, stood a man. His face was blurred, but his uniform badge glinted. Raymond grabbed a magnifying glass. He froze. It wasn't just any badge. It was a Fairview police badge. The thought clawed at him. Had one of his own officers been involved? He remembered the rumors, the whispers back then that someone inside the department had tampered with the case. But he had dismissed it as gossip. Now the evidence was in his house, hidden where only he would one day find it. Raymond began having flashes of memory. Late nights at the station, arguments with his deputy, missing pages from reports. Had he ignored something? Or had someone made sure he would never remember? The turning point came when Raymond revisited the Rourke family. Emily's mother, now frail and gray, still lived in the same house on Cedar Lane. When she saw Raymond, her face tightened. "You," she whispered. "You came here, that night." Raymond shook his head. I." She interrupted, her voice trembling. "You told me to stop asking questions. You told me my daughter was gone and to accept it. Why would you say that if you didn't know something?" Her words hit him like a hammer. He didn't remember ever telling her that. But the way she looked at him, accusing, devastated, made him wonder if he had. Back in his garage, Raymond noticed something he hadn't before. On the side of the evidence box, faint pencil initials, RD. His own initials. His heart pounded. Was he the one who had hidden the box? Had he taken it home in some desperate attempt to protect the town, or to protect someone else? The photos, the reports, the missing girl, they were no longer just evidence. They were an accusation, and all the arrows seemed to point back to him. Raymond stormed into the precinct the next morning, clutching the box. He cornered Chief Dana in her office, slamming the lid open on her desk. "Look at this. Tell me how this was sitting in my garage." Dana leaned over, eyes narrowing. "Where did you get this? You tell me. If this case was closed, why are there photos of an officer on the scene? Why are there statements missing from your archives?" Dana's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because someone wanted it buried." Raymond's fists clenched. "Are you saying that was me?" Dana met his eyes, steady and cold. "I'm saying someone made sure you thought it was." That night, Raymond sat alone in the dark, the box open beside him. His entire career, his reputation, his honor, was unraveling. He looked again at the blurry photograph of the officer in the woods. This time, his eyes focused not on the badge, but on the shape of the jawline, the tilt of the shoulders. It wasn't him, but it was someone he knew. Someone who had stood beside him in every town parade. Someone who had been in his garage dozens of times over the years. His oldest friend. Raymond exhaled slowly, the realization sinking in. The officer in the photo was still alive, and he still lived in Fairview. And as Raymond Doyle stared at the shadows in his own home, one thought chilled him to the bone. What if the man who took Emily Rourke wasn't finished? The photograph lay on the table, its edges curling from age. A blurry officer in uniform, standing in the shadows of the woods. Raymond Doyle, retired chief of police, couldn't shake the truth pressing in on him. He recognized the man. Not by the face, not by the badge, but by the way he stood. The set of the shoulders, the tilt of the head. He had seen that stance hundreds of times before. It wasn't him, but it was someone close. Too close. For 35 years, Raymond had prided himself on protecting Fairview. Now, with one evidence box, that entire legacy teetered on the edge of collapse. He poured himself coffee at 3 a.m., staring at the photo again, whispering the name he didn't want to believe. Tom Hensley. His oldest friend. His former deputy. The man who stood beside him through riots, funerals, and 4th of July parades. But if Tom was the man in the photo, what did that mean about Emily Rourke's disappearance? Raymond drove to Tom's house at dawn. Fairview was quiet, the mist rising off the fields like smoke. Tom's place sat at the edge of town, a one-story ranch with peeling paint and a porch swing that creaked in the wind. Tom answered the door in his robe, surprised but grinning. "Ray, didn't expect to see you this early. Retirement not treating you well?" Raymond studied his face. The easy smile, the crow's feet around the eyes. Could this really be the same man in that photo? Inside, Tom poured 2 mugs of coffee, chatting about nothing, fishing, the mayor's retirement party, his new knee brace. But Raymond barely listened. His eyes scanned the house. And then he noticed it. On the mantel, next to family photos, sat a pink hair clip. The same kind of clip that had been bagged in the evidence box. Raymond's throat tightened. That clip. Where'd you get it? Tom glanced at it, shrugged. Belonged to my niece. Left it here ages ago. Why? Raymond nodded, forcing a smile, but his heart was pounding. He excused himself shortly after, claiming he had errands to run. As he drove away, he replayed the moment in his head. The clip might be innocent, or it might be the clue that tied Tom to Emily Rourke. But one thing was certain: Tom noticed the way Raymond looked at it. And he noticed that Raymond left in a hurry. That night, Raymond's wife, Marlene, called him into the living room. She held up a small, folded piece of paper she'd found slipped under their front door. The handwriting was jagged, rushed. "Stop digging, Ray, or you'll regret it." Raymond froze. Nobody knew about the evidence box except Dana, the new chief, and Tom. He didn't tell Marlene the truth. He just told her it was some prank, some old grudge. But inside, he knew someone was watching. Back in the garage, Raymond dug deeper through the evidence box. At the bottom, beneath old files, he found a cassette tape sealed in an evidence bag. The label read, "Interview, Witness Number 3. He dusted off his old tape recorder and pressed play. A young girl's voice crackled through static. "He told me not to tell. He said he was a policeman. He said if I told, bad things would happen." Raymond's stomach dropped. He recognized the witness, a classmate of Emily's, who years later had moved away. Her testimony had never made it into the official case file. The tape continued. The girl whispered one last line before the recording cut off. His name was Tom. Raymond couldn't stay silent anymore. He marched into Tom's house late that night, tape in hand. Why was this buried, Tom? Why was this in my garage? Tom's smile vanished. For the first time, Raymond saw something else in his old friend's eyes: coldness, calculation. "Careful, Ray," Tom said quietly. "You're poking around in things that should stay buried." Raymond's voice cracked with anger. "That was a little girl, Tom. A child. What did you do to her?" Tom stepped closer, lowering his voice to a chilling whisper. "You think you want the truth? You don't. Because once you know, it won't just destroy me. It'll destroy you too." Raymond staggered out of the house, shaken to his core. The man he trusted most had just warned him away in the coldest terms possible. And Tom was right about one thing. If Tom had been involved, then Raymond had either missed it, ignored it, or covered it up. But why? Raymond returned home, only to find the garage door ajar. He rushed inside. The evidence box was gone. As Raymond stood in the empty garage, his breath clouding in the cold air, the phone rang inside the house. He answered. Silence. Then a man's voice, low and distorted. "You should have left it alone, Chief. Emily wasn't the only one." The line went dead. Raymond dropped the receiver, heart hammering. There wasn't just one victim. There were more. And the real question was, how many? The phone call echoed in Raymond Doyle's mind like a gunshot. Emily wasn't the only one. Those words replayed over and over as he stood in his dark kitchen, staring at the silent receiver. His career, his town, his friendships. None of it felt solid anymore. If there were more victims, how many families had been living in Fairview, never knowing the truth about what had happened to their children? And worse, how much had Raymond himself missed, or even buried, without realizing? In the days that followed, Raymond barely slept. His wife Marlene noticed the change, his sudden bursts of anger, the dark circles under his eyes, but he brushed her off, telling her it was just retirement blues. Inside, though, his chest was tight with dread. He couldn't ignore the call. Whoever had taken the box wanted him to stop, but instead, they had only pushed him deeper. Raymond needed answers, and there was only one place he could find them: the old records room in Fairview Police Headquarters. Late one evening, after most officers had gone home, Raymond slipped into the station. The building smelled the same as it always had: coffee, paper, faint traces of gun oil. In the basement, the records room hummed with fluorescent lights. Raymond opened the drawers marked 1996 to 1999. He searched for missing persons reports. 3 files were missing. 3 girls, all around Emily Rourke's age. The official system had them marked as runaways. But the paper trail was sloppy, signatures missing, reports cut short, details inconsistent. And each file had the same final signature: Deputy Chief Tom Hensley. As Raymond shoved the drawer shut, a voice startled him. "Chief, what are you doing down here?" It was Dana Moore, the new chief. She crossed her arms, eyebrows raised. Raymond swallowed hard, looking for the truth. Dana studied his face, then nodded slowly. "Good, because I don't think you're crazy. That box in your garage? That wasn't an accident." Raymond leaned closer. "You knew something." Dana hesitated, then whispered, "Let's just say Tom's name has come up before, but no one wanted to touch it." Her eyes narrowed. "If you keep digging, Ray, you're going to find something worse than corruption. You're going to find rot." Driving home, Raymond replayed Dana's words. Rot. Not just one man. Not just Tom. Something deeper. Something that had spread through Fairview long before Emily disappeared. The thought chilled him more than the autumn wind rattling the bare trees along Main Street. That night, Raymond went through old notebooks in his attic. Buried beneath yellowing patrol logs, he found one page that stopped him cold. A hand-drawn map of the Fairview woods, marked with small red X's. Next to one X was a note in his own handwriting: "Check clearing. Disturbance reported." But the memory was gone. He had no recollection of writing the note, of investigating that clearing. And there were 3 X's. 3 possible burial sites. Raymond grabbed a flashlight and drove to the woods alone, the night pressing heavy and silent around him. His boots sank into the damp soil as he followed the map. At the first clearing, he saw it: disturbed earth, long covered by grass and leaves. Kneeling down, he scraped the soil with his hands until he hit something hard. Plastic. Torn. Weathered. A child's shoe. His breath caught. Emily wasn't the only one. The caller had been telling the truth. Suddenly, headlights cut through the trees. A truck rumbled onto the trail, its beams blinding him. "Ray," a voice called out. Deep. Familiar. Tom Hensley. He stepped out of the truck, hands shoved in his jacket pockets. His silhouette looked exactly like the one from the old photograph. "You shouldn't be here," Tom said evenly. "You're digging up things that'll only destroy you." Raymond's voice cracked. "How many, Tom? How many children?" Tom's jaw tightened. "Go home, Ray. Let it die." Raymond took a step forward, fists trembling. "Not until I know the truth." For a moment, neither man moved. The woods seemed to hold its breath. Then Tom turned, climbed back into his truck, and drove off without another word. Raymond stood alone in the clearing, clutching the shoe in his hands. Tears burned in his eyes. He had spent his life protecting this town, but under his watch, children had disappeared. And now the evidence was surfacing in his own hands, his own notes, his own memories. He couldn't tell if he had been blind or complicit. When Raymond finally returned home, he found the front door unlocked. His stomach dropped. Inside, the living room was dark, silent, and then he saw it, on the coffee table, placed neatly under the lamp. A stack of Polaroid photographs. Fresh, untouched by dust or time. The top photo showed his wife, Marlene, sitting on their porch swing that very afternoon. A note was scrawled across it in jagged handwriting. "She'll be next." The photographs lay spread across the coffee table like a deck of cursed cards. Each Polaroid showed his wife, Marlene, captured at different times that week. Watering the flowers, grocery shopping, sitting on the porch swing with a book. Someone had been watching her closely, and the final note scrawled across the top photo made Raymond's blood run cold. "She'll be next." Raymond locked every door and window, double-checked the alarm system, and sat awake in the dark living room with a shotgun across his lap. Marlene stirred from the bedroom. "Ray, what's happening to us?" He didn't answer right away. How could he? She had lived her whole life trusting him to keep her safe. And now she was being hunted, because of him. Finally, he forced out the words. "I need you to leave town. Go to your sister's for a while." Marlene shook her head. "No, I'm not running. Not until you tell me the truth." Raymond lowered his eyes. "The truth is, I don't even know if I can protect you anymore." 2 nights later, just past midnight, Raymond awoke to the sound of shattering glass. He grabbed the shotgun and crept into the kitchen. The back window was smashed, the curtain fluttering in the cold air. On the linoleum floor sat a single object, another Polaroid. This one showed his garage, the exact spot where the evidence box had been hidden. Footsteps echoed outside. By the time Raymond rushed to the yard, headlights flared and a dark sedan sped away, tires spitting gravel into the night. The next morning, Raymond stormed into Chief Dana Moore's office, slamming the Polaroid on her desk. "They're coming after my family now. Whoever's behind this, they're not hiding anymore." Dana studied the photo, her jaw tight. "Then you need to hear something, Ray, and you're not going to like it." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "It's not just Tom. Back in the late 90s, there were whispers about a ring. Officers, politicians, even businessmen. People with influence. Every time a kid went missing, files got buried. Judges looked the other way. Someone had pull." Raymond's pulse quickened. "Are you telling me Fairview's been covering this up for decades?" Dana's eyes locked onto his. "I'm telling you that if you keep going, you won't just be fighting Tom, you'll be fighting the town itself." That evening, Raymond searched the attic again. In a dusty lockbox, he discovered something he had forgotten he ever owned. A small black ledger. His own handwriting filled the pages. But these weren't patrol notes. These were names, dates, payments, each entry linked to case numbers. And next to 3 of the missing girls' names were numbers, large sums of money. Raymond dropped the book in shock. His own ledger made it look like he'd been paid to bury the cases. But he had no memory of writing it. Shaking, Raymond drove to the only person who might confirm it, Tom. Tom met him in the driveway, a grim smile on his face. "I was wondering when you'd find it." Raymond shoved the ledger against his chest. "What is this? Did you forge this?" Tom laughed softly, almost pitying. "No, Ray. You wrote every word. Don't you remember? You were part of it." Raymond's heart nearly stopped. "That's a lie." Tom leaned in close, his breath hot and bitter. "Then why is your handwriting on the payoffs? Why are your initials on every file that disappeared? Maybe you should stop asking me questions and start asking yourself." Raymond lunged, grabbing Tom by the collar. "If you're framing me, I swear." Tom shoved him back. His eyes weren't scared. They were calm, cold. "Think about it, Ray. Why do you think that evidence box was in your garage? Why do you think those notes are in your handwriting? You think you're the hero of this story." He leaned even closer, whispering, You might just be the villain. Raymond stumbled back into his truck, the ledger shaking in his hands. Could it be true? Could he have buried evidence, taken money, and then forgotten it all? No, he would have remembered. Wouldn't he? But the handwriting was undeniable. The signatures were his. As he drove home, panic set in. His world was unraveling. His career, his reputation, even his own memory. What if Tom wasn't lying? Raymond pulled into his driveway, headlights sweeping across the porch. Marlene's car was gone. Inside the house, the silence was deafening. On the dining room table sat a fresh Polaroid. This one was different, newer, sharper. It showed Marlene, blindfolded, her hands bound, and across the bottom, written in jagged letters, "If you want to see her again, stop digging." The Polaroid of Marlene sat on the table like a knife in Raymond Doyle's chest. Her face was hidden behind a blindfold, her wrists bound tight with rough cord, and the threat written across the bottom cut deeper than any bullet ever could. "If you want to see her again, stop digging." Raymond's hands shook as he picked up the photo. He had spent his life staring down criminals, murderers, and liars, but nothing compared to this. The woman he loved most was in someone else's hands. He punched the wall, knuckles splitting against drywall, and roared into the empty house. "Where is she?" The photo offered no answer, only silence. Raymond knew one thing: he couldn't stop digging now. Whoever had Marlene wanted him silent because he was close, too close. And if Tom Hensley was part of it, he was the only lead that could bring Marlene home. Raymond's phone rang again at dawn. The same distorted voice from before. "You want her back?" the caller asked. Raymond's throat was raw. "Where is she?" "Prove you can still follow orders. Go to the old quarry. Noon. Come alone. And bring the ledger." The line went dead. Raymond stared at the phone. They weren't just taunting him. They were using him. And if the ledger was their price, it meant the book held something far bigger than he realized. The old Fairview quarry was a scar in the earth, abandoned 20 years earlier, now filled with stagnant green water and surrounded by rusted chain-link fence. Raymond arrived with the ledger tucked under his jacket. His boots crunched on gravel as he scanned the cliffs and shadows. Then he heard it, the faintest cry, a woman's voice, muffled. "Marlene?" he called, heart pounding. From across the quarry floor, he spotted movement. Marlene, blindfolded, tied to a chair near the edge of the water. He sprinted forward, but before he reached her, a truck engine roared. Headlights flared to life, blinding him. And there, stepping out of the driver's side, was Tom Hensley. Tom raised his hands casually, like this was just another day at the office. "Ledger, Ray. Toss it over." Raymond's voice cracked. "Let her go first." Tom smirked. "You're still giving orders, even when you're not chief anymore. Old habits." Raymond pulled the ledger from his jacket but didn't throw it. "Tell me the truth, Tom. How many girls? How many families did you destroy?" Tom's smile faded. His voice dropped low. "You think it's just me? Ray, this whole town runs on secrets. You signed the same papers I did. You took the same money. Don't pretend you're clean." Raymond shook his head. "No, I never." But then Tom pulled something from his pocket. A photograph. Faded, old. It showed Raymond himself, sitting at a diner booth in 1999. Across from him was a man in a suit, sliding an envelope across the table. Tom tossed it at his feet. "That's you, Ray, taking your cut. You don't remember? Convenient." Raymond's stomach dropped. The man in the photo, yes, it was him. His face, his hands, his signature leather jacket. But he had no memory of ever being there. Raymond's voice trembled. "You're framing me." Tom shook his head slowly. "Or maybe, Ray, you're just finally remembering." Raymond's grip tightened on the shotgun. He aimed it at Tom, finger trembling on the trigger. But Tom only smiled wider. "Go ahead. Pull it. You kill me, and you'll never see her again." Raymond's heart thundered. Marlene whimpered against her gag, her chair teetering dangerously close to the water's edge. Raymond dropped the shotgun. He couldn't risk it, not with Marlene so close to danger. Tom walked forward, took the ledger from Raymond's hands, and flipped it open. He skimmed the pages, then snapped it shut. "Good boy," Tom muttered. "Now, we're going to take a little ride." Two masked men stepped out of the truck's back seat, grabbing Raymond by the arms. He fought, but they were stronger, dragging him toward the vehicle. Marlene cried out, struggling against her ropes, but the men shoved Raymond into the truck. As the door slammed shut, Raymond caught one last glimpse of her, the chair rocking forward, the edge of the quarry crumbling beneath it. The truck jolted forward, gravel spitting behind the tires. Raymond slammed his fists against the window, screaming Marlene's name. And then, in the side mirror, he saw it, her chair tipping, until it vanished from view and splashed into the black water below. The last sound he heard before the quarry disappeared into darkness was her muffled scream, cut short. The truck rattled down the dirt road, headlights carving through the night. Raymond Doyle's hands were bound, his head pressed against the cold window by one of the masked men. But his eyes were fixed on the quarry behind them. The image replayed in his mind like a nightmare. The chair tipping, the splash of water, Marlene's muffled scream vanishing into the blackness. His chest heaved. Was she gone? Was he already too late? Inside the truck, Tom Hensley sat calmly in the front passenger seat, flipping through the ledger like it was a novel. "You kept better notes than I thought, Ray," Tom said over the roar of the engine. "You documented everything. Smart. Except now, it's all evidence against you." Raymond's voice cracked, rage and grief twisting together. "You monster. Where is she?" Tom glanced at him through the rearview mirror, a cold smirk tugging at his lips. "Maybe you'll find out. Maybe you won't. Depends how useful you are." Raymond lunged forward, but the masked men shoved him back. His wrists burned against the rope. Every muscle in his body screamed with the need to fight, but he knew one thing: survival meant patience. The truck wound deeper into the woods until it reached an old hunting lodge. The smell of damp wood and mildew clung to the air as they dragged Raymond inside. The walls were lined with antlers and dusty trophies, but on the far table sat something far darker: stacks of photographs, files, and videotapes. Evidence of decades of crimes. Raymond's stomach turned. This wasn't just Tom's doing. This was bigger. A network. Tom noticed his expression. "Now you see it, Ray. Fairview isn't the clean little town you thought it was. Never was. The badge? The oath? All just window dressing. What matters is who's willing to keep the machine running." Raymond spat at the floor. "That machine chews up children." Tom's smile faded. "That machine kept you in power for 35 years. One of the masked men slammed a VHS tape into an old television set. Static flickered, then an image appeared. Raymond's breath caught in his throat. It was him, younger, sitting in the diner. The same scene Tom had shown in the photograph, Raymond receiving an envelope of cash. But as the tape played, Raymond noticed something off. The voice, the movements. It wasn't his voice. It wasn't his mannerisms. This wasn't a recording of him. This was a double. Someone who looked like him. His eyes widened. "That's not me," he whispered. Tom tilted his head. "Oh, maybe not. But it doesn't matter. The tape is enough. The photos are enough. People see what we tell them to see." Raymond realized the truth in that moment. He hadn't buried the cases. He hadn't taken money. He'd been set up as the fall guy all along. Fueled by rage, Raymond surged forward, slamming his shoulder into one of the masked men. The man stumbled back, and Raymond seized the moment, headbutting the second guard. Pain exploded across his skull, but adrenaline drove him. He wrestled a knife from the man's belt and sliced through his ropes. Tom barked, "Stop him!" But Raymond was already charging for the back door. He burst into the cold night air, lungs burning, boots pounding against the dirt. Behind him, shouts erupted. Gunshots cracked through the trees, sparks flashing as bullets tore into the wooden walls of the lodge. But Raymond kept running. He had to find Marlene. The woods opened onto a riverbank, moonlight glinting off the dark water. And there, half submerged, clinging desperately to a fallen log, was Marlene. Her blindfold was gone, her face pale, lips blue from the cold. But she was alive. "Ray!" she cried, voice hoarse. He plunged into the freezing water, pulling her into his arms. She sobbed against his chest, shivering uncontrollably. I thought I was gone." He kissed her hair, choking back tears. I've got you. But their reunion was cut short. Tom stepped from the shadows, a pistol raised. Behind him, the masked men fanned out, blocking every escape. "Touching," Tom sneered. "But it ends here. You should have stayed retired, Ray. Should have let the ghosts lie." Raymond pushed Marlene behind him, chest heaving. "Go on then. Kill me. But know this, when you do, the truth will come out. People will see you for what you are." Tom's eyes narrowed. The truth? The truth is whatever we make it." He cocked the pistol. Then, sirens. Red and blue lights slashed through the trees. Dana Moore's voice boomed through a megaphone. "Drop your weapons. You're surrounded." Tom froze, fury flashing across his face. In the chaos, Raymond lunged, tackling him into the mud. The gun skidded away. They grappled, fists flying. Years of brotherhood turned into raw violence. Finally, with a roar, Raymond pinned Tom down, his hands around his collar. "You took everything from me." Tom only smiled, blood dripping from his lip. "Not everything. Not yet." Before Raymond could answer, officers swarmed in, pulling Tom away, slapping cuffs on his wrists. The masked men fled into the trees, but several were caught in the net of flashing lights. Dana rushed forward, helping Raymond to his feet. "We got your call. We followed the signal. It's over." Raymond glanced at Marlene, shivering in a blanket as paramedics tended to her. He wanted to believe it was over. But Tom's words echoed in his ears, "Not everything. Not yet." In the days that followed, Fairview was rocked by the revelations. Files uncovered at the lodge exposed years of corruption, implicating judges, officers, and businessmen. The town that once seemed so simple was now a scarred landscape of betrayal. Raymond gave testimony. His name eventually cleared, but the scars remained. At night, he sat on his porch with Marlene, holding her hand, staring at the quiet streets of the town he once thought he knew. "I spent my life chasing justice," he whispered, "but I forgot that justice means nothing without truth." Marlene squeezed his hand. "And truth means nothing if you're too afraid to face it." Raymond Doyle's story wasn't just about a missing girl, or a corrupt deputy, or even a town riddled with secrets. It was about the cost of silence, and the courage it takes to break it. In his journal, he wrote, Evil wins when good men look the other way. Power means nothing if it isn't used to protect the powerless. The truth is heavy, but it will set you free. Lies are light, but they will drown you. And finally, the line that carried him into the rest of his life. Character is not shaped in the easy years. It is sharpened in the fire of trials, when doing the right thing costs you everything.
Every mystery leaves us with more questions than answers, and the story doesn't end here. If you were drawn into the shadows with us tonight, don't let the trail go cold. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and tap the notification bell so you'll never miss the next case we uncover. Because in the world of true crime, every detail matters, and the next clue might be waiting in our very next story. Step closer, stay curious, and join us behind the crime.